Hello, everyone. My name is Junya Otani, and my behavioral change project is called Building Better Spending Habits to Save More Money. I chose this project because I noticed I was often spending money without really thinking about it. Most of the time, it wasn't one big purchases that hurt my finances, but many small purchases like snacks, drinks, online shopping, or just simply eating out. Individually, they didn't seem expensive, but together, they added up a pretty good amount. As a college student, I realized that if I wanted to save more money, I needed to change my daily spending habits rather than simply trying to save whatever was left at the end of each month. The purpose of this project was to become more aware of my spending, reduce unnecessary purchases, and build habits that I can continue using even after this course. My goal became more intentional with my spending by following a weekly budget and tracking all of my purchases. To measure my progress, I used several key performance indicators, or also known as KPIs. First, I tracked every purchases I made throughout the week so I knew exactly where my money was going. Second, I aimed to stay within my weekly budget of around $100. Finally, I reviewed my spending at the end of every week to identify patterns and see where I could improve. These KPIs help me measure my progress instead of simply hoping I was spending less. The biggest challenge I faced was probably the impulse spending. There were many situations where buying something felt convenient or rewarding. For example, after a long day of classes, it was much easier to buy food or coffee than to think about my budget. Sometimes I also bought things online simply because they were on sale or because I thought I deserved a reward. Another challenge was spending money when I was with friends. Even if I hadn't planned on spending money that day, it was difficult to say no when everyone else wanted to go out. I learned that my spending habits were often influenced by convenience, emotions, and social situations rather than the actual needs. The main framework I applied was the Utcard change model. The first stage is awareness. I became aware that my daily spending habits were preventing me from saving as much money as I wanted. The second stage is desire. I wanted to improve my financial habits so I could save money for future goals and reduce unnecessary spending. The third stage is knowledge. I learned how to create a simple budget, track my expenses, and distinguish between needs and wants before making a purchase. The fourth stage is ability. I put what I learned into practice by recording my purchases and checking my spending regularly throughout the week. Finally, reinforcement helped me stay motivated. Every week that I stayed close to my budget gave me confidence to continue, and even when I overspent, reviewing my expenses helped me learn from my mistakes instead of just giving up. Using Udcar helped me understand that successful change is a gradual process and each step builds on the previous one. Overall, this project was successful, but it definitely wasn't a perfect one. One of my biggest success was becoming much more aware of my spending habits. Tracking every purchase made me think twice before buying things that I didn't really need. However, I also had some setbacks. There were weeks when I spent more than I planned because of social activities, unexpected expenses, or simply making impulse purchases. One surprise was realizing how much money I spent on small purchases. A few dollars here and there didn't seem like much at the time, but after adding everything together, I saw how much those small purchases affected my budget. Although I didn't stay within my budget every single week, I made noticeable progress and developed better awareness of my financial decisions. This project taught me that changing behavior is much harder than simply making a goal. I learned that budgeting isn't about completely avoiding spending money. Instead, it's about making intentional decisions and understanding where my money is going. I also learned that setbacks are part of the change process. Instead of viewing mistakes as failures, I use them as opportunities to understand what triggered my spending and how I could improve the next time. Going forward, I plan to continue tracking my expenses and following a budget because I now have much better understanding of my spending habits. Overall, this project helped me become more financially responsible, and I believe these habits will benefit me long after this course is over. Thank you for listening.